Good evening to everybody, and welcome to another evening, Monday Night Live, another iteration of this thing where we get together and discuss important topics relevant to recovery from addiction of any kind. And tonight, I have the distinct pleasure of being with my friend and our friend Nikki Myers, who I haven't seen or taught alongside or anything in the year of 2020, really.
Not true. We did on
India.
Weimar.
Say it again.
We did Weimar online.
We did. We've done an online thing, but we haven't been physically.
That's right.
It's amazing. So, Nikki, tonight I opened this up to beyond the Recovery 2.0 membership because we're talking about recovery and isolation. And I felt it was obviously relevant for anybody alive right now. And so we wanted to make sure that as many folks could come as possible. So I've been thinking today a lot about this talk. And I just first wanted to just say, how are you? How are you faring as a person in recovery through the challenges and the difficulties of this year?
It's just like that. It is all the things, and I mean all the things. There are parts of my life that are so beautiful, right? On Friday, I welcomed my third great grandchild in the world, right? And she's beautiful and healthy and just absolutely amazing. 8 pounds and long fingers and all. I mean, she's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm probably not going to see her for 2 months, right? Other than Zoom and other than, that, I'm probably not going to see her for a couple months. And, one of my big joys was having pictures of my great grands when I'm holding them at 2 hours, right? I show those often in some of the trainings that I do. So, and that's kind of been the deal. It's just all of the above. There are parts that are so beautiful. And then, 300,000 people have died from this vile virus. And, we're still dealing with a climate crisis. And there's all the work relative to white supremacy. There is, I can just go on and on. There's, of course, what we're dealing with opioid epidemic, right? So it's just all the things in my community, particularly the folks in the 12-step community that I've been a part of for years and years and years. It's really been tragic, as far as a lot of people from COVID and of course a lot more overdose, right? So, and I'm grateful, right? So it's just, for me, the big deal holding the and, how can I hold all this, right? Day by day, one day at a time. So I'm healthy, how we do in Ayurveda. I'm sleeping well, I'm pooping well, right? All of those things. So in this moment, I have a lot to be grateful for, and I have a lot that I'm grieving all at the same time. And so it's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's a strange time. I want to, for a minute, you mentioned Ayurveda.
Yeah.
And both you and I had a very powerful experience this year.
Yes.
And it's interesting that in a way we began this journey into this pandemic and everything that it has meant We began that in a small village in southern India, being absolutely taken care of in a very tailored, specific way for each of our bodies. And it's remarkable in a way that we sort of came out of that into this. Have you thought about that at all this year?
I'm so deeply grateful for that, right? I think I would have entered this in just a whole different way as far as my physical and emotional, my 5-body well-being.
Hmm.
When I came back from there, I really knew in a way that I had forgotten what homeostasis really feels like in this body and in this being, what balance really feels like in this being, you know, so I'm grateful for that, so grateful. And and then it got shot to shit, right?
Unbelievable.
Balance got shot to shit, right? And then and I had tools, right? I had some things from that I'm just really deeply grateful for.
Hmm. So throughout all of the early messaging that I received in recovery, uh, there was always this theme of, don't go it alone.
Mhm.
Power, strength in numbers, stay in the pack, stick with the winners, all this messaging about togetherness. And we're thrown into this situation. And obviously, one of the things I remarked back in March was it would take our government a long time to get its digital shit together. But it took Alcoholics Anonymous less than 72 hours, essentially, to be online and coping completely. I think I might have lost your volume.
You think so?
Oh
Can you?
no, there you go. I got you now.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are in this digital realm. I mean, here we are now, literally in this digital realm. And I have heard heartwarming stories of people getting sober in the digital realm this year. And I have also heard the stories of people just not being able to get it and struggling in ways because of this digital interface between us. Can you speak a little bit about your experience with it this year?
Um, I have been so deeply grateful for the connection, and heartened by what I've seen online. And I also get it, and it was really, really heartening at first, right? The longer we've been in this,
Mm.
I so miss being person to person and face to face and all of that. And again, it's the and I'm just grateful, because like 3 years ago, Zoom wouldn't have been around. So I can't even imagine what this might have been like in the case where this was not available, right? But I've been in meetings with people from all across the world. And so hearing voices that I don't normally, I'm not able to hear. And being in even that kind of, even though it's digitized and virtual and all of that, I get to form relationships with people that I would not have been able to form relationships with.
Mm.
And so I'm grateful for that. It goes both ways, right? It just goes both ways.
Mm.
It's been amazing. It really has been. On so many levels.
Mm. On a well, on the level of race and what we've seen in the United States this year, George Floyd, to name one of many, the underlining and the spotlight on racial injustice, on a systemic issue that is coming to the surface in a bigger way than I think in my lifetime anyway, that we've seen. I know that you've done your response, part of your response to that was to create and to present this program. And I was wondering if you could speak about what that's meant for you, especially in this year, and as having a sense of purpose and being engaged in something so critically important right now. I have to imagine that's been a part of keeping you in the positive and moving forward.
Yeah. One of the things that I have learned and discovered relative to this conversation about addiction is that it's, of course, as we know, much more than a substance or a behavior. And in this combination of this work with yoga and yoga philosophy, right, in this marrying of yoga philosophy and really underlying 12-step principles and practices and all of those things, because of course, not solely the 12 steps, but the 12 steps have been a major source of my healing and a major path for me in this work of recovery. And addiction is so much bigger than a substance and or a behavior. And I always think to this is that's why there can be 200 different kinds of 12-step programs, right? Clutterers Anonymous, Hoarders Anonymous. I mean, it goes on, right? Actually, there is a racist Anonymous. And the thought and ability to think of using 12-step principles as a way to begin healing something which is an addiction, right? It's ultimately an addiction to power and control, right? Any ism, racism, sexism, any of that is ultimately an addiction to power and control. So, and I assert that if we're really going to heal addiction, sooner or later, we got to get underneath what's at all addiction, right? And I've always loved it. I think I first heard Dana say this at a Y-Mark years and years ago, right? That whole thing relative to control, and really at its heart, addiction is about manipulating outcomes, right? Racism is about manipulating outcomes. All of these things are about, which is an addiction to power, right? And so ultimately, not just individually, but also collectively. The other thing I love about the 12 steps is, and this is my experience and assertion, the first 6 steps are about dealing with the individual. But you start getting to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's about the collective. And my experiences through relapse and through all of these things is that if you don't get there, it's like a grape that will fizzle and turn into a raisin or something else on the vine, right? Dry up, right? If we don't make this collective, that it doesn't become collective healing. And racism is a big part of that, right? All of it. So, so what I actually have done for a few years now in connection with Sean Corn, right? We collaborated to bring Race in America. And it's a deep immersion, right? For 5 days, just across a breadth of the history of and what differentiates that, I would assert, from many other conversations, because there's been conversations about this forever and ever and ever, is we bring in the somatics, right? We bring in the body, right? And we bring in all of this stuff at the level of, the theme of Y12SR, the issues live in our tissues. And these are issues that live in our tissues as well. And so we do this in that form. And this was the first year we did it online, right? We usually do it as an in-person immersive trip, right? For the last couple of years to Alabama. We have plans on doing it in Alabama and New Orleans when COVID hit, right? And so we took it online, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was really, really a beautiful experience.
One of the things I've been hearing from a lot of teachers, and I've experienced this myself, is that surely I've been able to reach, and people have been able to reach different people than we normally would have reached because of COVID and the situation of, I guess there's some phenomenal statistics about people who are studying online now. Like
Yeah.
this is unbelievable, like statistic, of hours that people are actually just studying everything. So I imagine you were able to reach people that you might not normally have reached in a live format.
Oh, absolutely. Our live format with that has been, plus it's so costly. I mean, you got to go there, right?
Right.
All the travel and, all the lodging and all the setup. So it can be costly. And
Mm,
this way we were able to really condense a whole lot of things.
mm.
And we usually have, I don't know, 30, 40 people, right? And this time there were, I don't even know, right? But in the hundreds, right? Oh, yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, beautiful. It was great work.
that's awesome. I'm hearing, there are some side effects, positive side effects to this whole thing,
Yeah, yeah. That's been one of the highlight of the year. And the other
Mm,
highlight is to work with Roth, right?
yes.
Yeah, we've started our work there. So that's been a real highlight.
Beautiful. Can you just mention, there may be some people here that are not familiar with Y12SR. Can you talk about it? Because it's from obviously I've always felt this way, but I think it's just one of the most important organizations in modern day recovery. And so, can you speak a little bit for those folks who are not familiar? Because there's some new folks here.
Absolutely. And I am deeply grateful that it was able to make the kind of translation that it made to online. There are just dozens of, I mean, I don't even know how many online media. And so it was able to adapt to that, like everything else. But for those who don't know, Y12SR is the yoga of 12-step recovery. And really what we do is through meetings and practices and all of those things, we combine the really what we say, we connect dots. And the dots that we connect are the 12-step program, the very practical things relative to 12-step principles and practices, yoga philosophy and practice, neuroscience, and all the things we know about what's going on relative to addiction in the brain, right? And trauma healing. And so the whole program is really about how to use those things in order for an individual to create what we speak of as a sustainable platform for addiction recovery,
Mm,
right? And that may be individual because we're bio-individual being, but parts of the same components are going to go in any sustainable platform for addiction recovery.
mm,
And so the work is, we do this through really community outreach. Y12SR is a community outreach platform, right? As well as an education platform. And we do that by working with and training addiction recovery professionals, as well as yoga teachers and therapists and all that list. Those all that work do work in the addiction recovery domain, um, um, to hold what are Y12SR meetings, which are like a discussion-based group based in the 12 steps, right? For all addictions. And then a yoga practice, and it's a trauma-informed themed yoga practice, which offers those who participate in it a set of tools, a set of tools in order to walk the walk that they walk in their daily lives, to have just some things that when life on life's terms show up, and like this, like we're going through today, and when I can feel a sense of a trigger or angst or activation in my nervous system, a set of tools, you know, that I can just take a moment and regain just a little bit of nervous system regulation so that I can create enough space that I can make a different choice. Right. So I'm not off to the races and I'm not doing the whole kind of thing over again. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah. So you used the word grateful earlier, in many times actually, it's one of my favorite words. And you know, this is about talking to people right here and right now about isolation and this, you know, how to recover in a time where isolation is a part of the landscape almost. So can you speak a little bit about some of the tools and some of the ways that you or anyone could hold space for the and be able to remain grateful in a time as challenging as this?
Absolutely. You know, one of the questions, you know, I just did finished up a training yesterday, an online training yesterday. One of the questions that we always put out relative to the work that we're doing is like, how can my intentions become stronger than my dysfunctional patterns, right? And you know, that's a question one of my teachers asked me a while back. You know, what do I need to do to, because those patterns are there, that samskara, right? Those that conditioning, the habits, they're there. And the first thing I'm going to do is tell the truth about that, right? We always say that you cannot heal what you do not acknowledge. So I'm not going to bullshit myself and say, oh, I'm enlightened and wonderful. I always talk about how the Yoga Sutras say that I think it's Yoga Sutra 119 that talks about two kinds of yogis, right? There's the extraordinary yogi, this Jesus and Buddha, and I'm not going to bullshit myself to think that that's who I am, right? And that would be bullshit. Right? Number one, I say fuck way too much. I use that word way too frequently, right? To even bullshit myself about that. That's not me. I'm the other yogi that they talk about. I'm the yogi that's got to keep doing the work, right? That's got to keep coming back. That's got to go to meetings and be in community and you know, and do all the things. I'm that yogi. Or the weeds will pop up in my garden and take it all the way over, right? And I know that. I've done that before, right? I've relapsed, right? And so I've done that before. So I got a history, I got a marker there. So what in that question is, what do I need to cultivate so that, right? And it's a cultivation process. And what do I need to continually be aware to cultivate so that my intentions can become stronger than those dysfunctional patterns. And gratitude is one of the biggies. Integrity, gratitude, right? Those are two of the biggies. Humility, right? Those are all those principles that sit underneath the steps. I tell people all the time, you don't work the steps for steps' sake. You work steps to get at the principles that are sitting underneath them. Right? That's the reason for doing it. So I can embody those in my life. And so I got to cultivate that stuff. I really do. It's a cultivation process. And gratitude is probably the biggest for me of those things that I need to keep focused on.
Mm.
Right. And I'm always, I heard this at one of the Weimar things, right? When I can make my gratitude bigger than my fear, and when I can make my gratitude bigger than my complaint, or when I can make my gratitude bigger than my opinion, then there's possibility,
Mm.
right? When it's closed off and my gratitude is small, right? Then there's no opening. It was like it's almost like the first time I went into a 12-step room and said, and for real said, well, damn, I'm an addict, right? Given all the evidence out here, right? And all the rest of the stuff, I'm an addict. And when I said that, a world of empowerment opened up, right? That I could do something different now that I had told the truth about that there was another whole possibility around it. And it's the same with gratitude for me. When I can get to that inside of gratitude, it opens up possibility. It opens up. So, it's beyond the binary. I can get beyond the binary when I can remember and it's a cultivation process.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's just so wonderful. I'm thinking about newcomers, people who are maybe they're still using drugs and alcohol or another addictive behavior, um, and they're unfamiliar with, literally have never been to a meeting face to face. So here's the new landscape right now, and they come into this landscape and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to go to this online meeting. What would you say to those folks who are, maybe they're in their first week of recovery right now, counting days, I'm 3 days sober,
Yeah.
how do you do this thing?
Yeah. First thing that I would say is I honor your courage. I honor your commitment. I see somebody in there said 4 days. Well, I just honor you for being here, right? Because you got to put on, this is the line, your big girl panties or your big boy boxers, right? In order to show up. And that's the kind of thing, that kind of courage and that kind of insight and commitment to just show up. I mean, that is indication that there's something else underneath there to cultivate and to nourish and to develop. So I bow to what it takes to come into a space, like even have the willingness, right? We always talk about honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So to have the willingness to even show up is something that's gonna serve you well as you walk along this path, right? The courage and the willingness. So I bow to that. I absolutely bow to that. And then, I love that little is progress, not perfection, right? So you do 1 day, 1 minute, 1 hour at a time. And my favorite line, you just keep doing the next good, right, honest thing, right? And the next good, right, honest thing sometimes is hitting that link to go to a meeting, or the next good, right. I mean, it's no big magnanimous thing. It might be to get out of bed, right? The next good, right, honest thing might be to brush your teeth, right? But to break it down that much that I'm putting one foot in front of the other and doing the next good, right, honest thing. That's kind of like, I think about that. If you really want to break down karma, right? Right. Karma is, for me, karma, of course, is a big topic, but when I think about it from this perspective, that what I do in this minute is a data feed that's going to go into the next minute and the next minute and the next minute, right? And I want to put the good shit in the next minute and the next minute. So there's a possibility that what comes out is, what is going to feed me. We're going to feed my soul and feed all of that, right? And yeah.
And in terms of, the nuts and bolts of sort of what would the general suggestions be to anybody who came into a meeting, things like, go to lots of meetings,
Yeah.
um, and especially the work, find a sponsor and do the work. It's a little different to find a sponsor these days.
It is. That's a real different one. But in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. When I was doing a lot of traveling, I used to love to do the phone meetings, the phone bridge meetings.
Hmm.
Right. And so there were lots of people who found or had an ability to find sponsors on those meetings.
Hmm.
Right. I know several people who found sponsors from that source. So there's, somewhat of a precedent for it, but it is different, right? It's very different from the usual way that we've done things for COVID, right?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. But it's possible. It's
Yes. And the directive, of course, is, find a sponsor and start working the 12 steps with that person. Um, Certainly nothing wrong with working the 12 steps in groups, or one person taking a group of people through the steps. I mean, we get, we have to adapt.
absolutely
Plus,
right.
it's interesting that, people now are much more willing than they used to be to actually sponsor somebody online in this way.
Right. Distance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that didn't used to be sort of like, well, find someone in your hometown, I think would have been the thing, but no longer. So it's interesting.
Right. Right. I would also tell someone, in that space, take a few moments and just listen. Right. I mean, really, really, without, if at all possible, letting go of any preconceptions, if there's a possibility for that, and just take a few, just, put on your inner ears and all of those things and just listen.
Hmm.
And for a few meetings, sit and really, really listen.
Hmm. Thank you for that. One of the things I've noticed going on also is, people are starting to, well, obviously people are doing yoga online in addition to, in addition to meeting online. But there are some meetings in Los Angeles. There are some meetings that are meeting on the beach in person with, yeah, it's major distance between people. Everybody's masked up, this kind of thing. But it's happening.
Yeah, yeah. Um, of course, I'm in Indiana, so there is no beach,
Hmm.
and it's right now cold. I want to put the AF after that, right? It's pretty cold, so that's not happening. And I don't think, just because of um, restrictions here where I am right now is pretty bad.
Hmm.
So I don't think there are any live meetings going on.
Hmm.
But I can imagine that there could be, right? In particularly where you are.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely some things happening, but also you probably have heard that, we California folks we do not have a great record right now in terms of health. And so we're in a lockdown. We're sort of in a stay-at-home order kind of thing right now.
Yeah.
Again, so it's weird, but this sort of gets us into this next topic, which I wanted to cover with you tonight, Nikki. This year we've seen conversation almost across any topic these conversations have been unbelievably divisive. Opinions, fighting, arguing, families going after, loved ones going after. So we could be talking about race. We could be talking about masks. We could be talking about vaccines. We could be talking about the political, I don't even have a word for it. We could be talking about, COVID itself, and you will hear the most this year. I've heard things, theories around things that it's so out there. But there's an entire universe of people, a community of people that are engaged in these arguments. And it has become a focus. It has become a thing, an energy for them. And I remember more than ever, and I cherish more than ever, this idea about we stopped fighting anyone and anything, even alcohol, those words. And also, we don't get involved in outside issues. We stay with the primary purpose. So I was wondering if you could speak to what your experience has been around all this, because we're talking about isolation. It's unbelievably isolating to argue in this way.
Yeah. Tommy, the first thing that I always, number one, remind myself is I have a dysregulated nervous system right now. I don't know how. I know my nervous system is dysregulated. In the midst of all these multiple pandemics, my nervous system is dysregulated. And I don't often make a lot of assumptions, but when whoever is in front of me, I assume that their nervous system is dysregulated too. I don't know how you have a regulated nervous system in the midst of all this, right? And so I remember that the conversation, whatever it is, that we're working with two dysregulated nerves. I love the principles above personalities kind of thing. If you take we got two dysregulated nervous systems in a conversation. So again, recognizing that you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. When I acknowledge that first, it kind of allows me to approach the conversation, whatever it is, in a different way, right? Knowing that, these are two dysregulated nervous systems in conversation in this moment. And that can sometimes allow a space, right? So that there's a way when I can feel, more angst and more all of those kinds of things to my nervous system. It helps me to approach conversations and recognizing that, like I said, that the body in front of me is a dysregulated nervous system. There's a different space I've discovered from which a conversation can happen.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just amazing. I love that so much because, in the moments where this dysregulated nervous system has been pulled into some of that, it's not.
Ain't pretty, is it?
It ain't pretty. It not only is it not pretty, it's truly isolating.
Yes.
Like it hurts. It's not leading in the right direction, and if anybody of those two, or more nervous systems is trying to actually prove their point to the other, just, oh my God.
That's right. That's right. It does not usually end well, right? It does not usually end well. And even though that may not have been my intention, it's another one of those things where dysfunctional patterning takes the fuck all over, and it just,
Yep.
all over.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so Nikki, you and I and Ralph, we've taught many years. First thing I want to ask is, do you imagine in your mind's eye that we could do that again sometime, and maybe before too long?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I really do. Yeah, I'm holding that. Yeah.
I'm holding that too. I can't even. I mean, it's going to be just a hug festival.
I can't wait. That's what I miss more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so everybody's asking who is Rolf. I saw that on there.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Let's talk, please. Let's talk about our friend Ralph.
Whoever asked that question is Rolf Gates, right? And if you don't have meditations for the mat or meditation on intention or any of Rolf Gates' books around recovery, I would assert that that would be a worthy purchase for you, right? To get those things. They're really, really wonderful. He's absolutely wonderful.
I've got him right around here somewhere.
Do you have the digital retreat handy?
Do I have
Our digital retreat.
our digital? I do actually. So for the backstory on this, you guys, is that we taught for, I guess, a decade.
Yeah.
And we would typically do a West Coast in Esalen and then an East Coast at Kripalu every year. We would teach these yoga and recovery retreats, beautiful experiences. There are some people that got sober at those retreats and stayed sober.
That's right.
And really special. And so we decided that we would put together a digital yoga retreat, which obviously fits into this time right now. So if you guys, with your permission, I would show you a 90-second promo to see what we put together if you're interested. Is that okay with you guys? We'll do it? Okay. Yeah? Okay. Great. So let me try and share screen here, and I'll share computer sound, and we've got that, and let's do this. Here we go. All right. Can you see that? Yes? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I think you'll be able to hear it pretty good. So here we go. I'm going to tell you a story about my life, a story about overcoming addiction, about recovery, and the importance of yoga along this path. We're all on this path of discovery if we choose to be. And being able to be grounded in a place that is beyond relapse, that is strength and connection and love of self in a really healthy, beautiful way.
Nothing delivers the experience of being settled in your own skin like the practice of yoga. When I got on my yoga mat and started feeling my body open and like release tension, that gave me a whole nother sense of what physical recovery could look like.
Yoga practice helped me to find that realignment where what became possible is a connection with something bigger that allows me to embody the spiritual principles in my life.
With the love and guidance of a teacher and a community of support. Powerful philosophy, underlying time-tested, proven practices from the very deep well of yoga. That turned out to be the recipe for sustainable, long-term recovery from a place of joy and contentedness and centeredness and bliss.
So the 12-step program for me has been like this lifeboat, right? Adding yoga to this thing has been like the launching pad.
To me, what this program is about is offering you skills for learning. How do we learn?
For the past decade or so, Rolf and Nikki and I have been teaching yoga and recovery retreats. This digital retreat is to make these practices and these principles and these philosophies available to anyone, anywhere, wherever you are in the world. Blessings to you, peace to you, and we look forward to seeing you in this digital retreat and beyond. There we go.
Yay.
Yay. So that's our promo piece. Thanks you guys for letting us show you that. And yeah, you can buy it, and there's a big, we did a big COVID holiday sale. So it's deeply discounted now. And so if you're interested or you know someone who could benefit from this kind of work, you can send them to yogarecoveryretreat.com, and that's where it's available. So yeah, so it's interesting, Nikki, that I just watched my wife Kia do 200 hours.
Yeah, I was
online. Say again?
I was a part of that, right? I did.
Oh yeah, I know. That's right. I know you were. Well, I was a part of it in terms of, making food for my wife and and really helping out because she, 200 hours on Zoom.
I can't. I just did like I've been doing quite a few of the Watch Over Start trainings online, and I just did one of those over the weekend, and it's been a whole nother level of self-care.
Yeah.
Right? And which is, another thing in this whole self-care domain is different now with this. I've discovered some things. I have to go outside and look up, right, into an horizon. And it's just really, really, self-care is different.
Absolutely. Well, Nikki, I just want to ask just a couple more things before we run out of our time tonight. So with regards to, the place for yoga in recovery, does it begin for a person, in your opinion, after they've worked through the 12 steps, for example? Or is it something that could begin on day one, and it's something that they could bring in gently into their lives as they move along? I have obviously some ideas and thoughts around that, but I want to hear what you think about that.
I think that the first thing is, like we talk about in the 12 steps, when we kind of make a decision that we want something different, right? And then after that, for me, my words are spirit, right? You invite spirit in to do spirit's thing, right? And I know so many people who have come into addiction healing through yoga, and I know so many others who have come in through the 12 steps and then into yoga as a way, like I said, the yoga took my recovery to a place that I didn't know possible. But I came in from the 12 steps and then into yoga. But I know others who have come in from a different direction. And so, I would just say, just let spirit do the work, right?
Yes. Nikki, there's a great comment that just came in about being in chronic pain. And with regards to yoga, losing interest in asana, can you paint, I love to do this and I want to hear your perspectives on it. Can you paint a broader perspective of yoga than just asana?
Right. And that asana can take many forms, right? If I'm raising my arm with the alignment of mind and breath, that's asana, right? If I'm moving a toe, right? Or if I'm not moving at all physically, but I'm aligning awareness, breath, and movement, that's asana, right? And the real reason that we do asana, right, and pranayama is to get to the meditation. Right? And the whole big deal is really, that's where, we talked about we often talk about what's going to be necessary in order for us to move to back to who it is that we really are. The substratum is love, right? And in order for us to get back to that, right, we got all this bullshit on top, right? And, you know, it's like in 12-step program, they say the whole deal is uncover, discover, discard, right? And that's what we're doing. We're taking off, we're whole and complete. So looking at my great grandbaby, and I'm looking at this baby's eyes, right? And I'm like, this is wholeness. This is, and she can't tell herself from anything else. She doesn't know she from he. She doesn't know, you know, she doesn't know he, right? She's just this little piece of wholeness extracted from wholeness. And that's who we are, right? And we just put all this other bullshit on top. And the work is chipping away all of this bullshit that we put on top, right? That we've allowed, the conditioning, you know, all the programming, right? And all it is chipping away at all that stuff. And so the work, right, is changing the operating system, the programming, and the way that that happens is at its root is in meditation. So you're doing the asana and the pranayama to get there, right? So
Love it.
we want to change this operating system, right? Shift the operating system, right?
When you look at your great-granddaughter's eyes, it shifts your operating system immediately.
Oh my God, you know that chant, right? Purnamada, Purnamida. I look at her and that's it. That's Purnamida, right? She's just a little piece of wholeness extracted from wholeness. It's just so beautiful, right? Takes me someplace else, right? We're all that.
Have you, just out of curiosity, have you formed, you know, some people around the country have formed these small pods, they call them. And it's a small group of people that are all not seeing anybody else, but they're willing to see each other.
I haven't really seen anybody for the last like 3 or 4 months. Right. The last thing I did, I take that back. The last thing I did was in October, and my kids and grandkids and all of us took a trip together to South Carolina. Right. And that was a beautiful thing. But we haven't done anything. That's once we got back, things got really bad where we are. And so we haven't seen each other other than Zoom and, you know, conversation and things like that since.
Yes.
So I cannot wait.
Yes.
Minnie comes by every now and then and she drops juice off at the door and, you know, that kind of shit. But yeah.
We struggled long and hard about whether to run the Thanksgiving Costa Rica trip.
Yes. Did you?
No. It just, we were right on. I mean, so much of me wanted to do it. And I spoke to the folks down there and there was a tension and it just didn't flow. It just didn't feel right. And, you know, people, you know, we're very frightened and very concerned. At the same time, I'm getting emails every day. People are like, please run a retreat. Please run a retreat, you know, as soon as you can. So obviously as soon as we possibly can, safely. Oh yeah, someone just put Costa Rica 2021. Without question, you know, we're going, so we got to figure it out. But yeah, the time will come again soon. And I know people have terribly missed live music and terribly missed, you know, gatherings of every kind. So we got to hold space for, you know, we're going through something. We're not going to stay in something.
That's right. This too shall pass.
No question.
Too shall pass, right? I'm, you know, grateful for all the things that's happening. You know, I was watching TV today and the folks getting the first vaccine. and I hope this is the beginning of the end of this.
Wouldn't it be great if it just works,
Yeah.
and it works out? Well, we'll see. Well, all right, Nikki, I'm super grateful to you. We so grateful to you for your time tonight and for your great spirit as always. Thank you for connecting with us and with me. I really love you so.
Kia for me always.
I will. Yeah. Say hello to your whole family and to everybody and to the whole Y12SR posse. Deep pranam, deep bow, sending love to everybody from over here at Recovery 2.0. We just love you all, and we're all family in this. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Everybody stay safe. If we could just bring our palms together and we'll just we'll end with the Recovery 2.0 prayer. Take a deep inhale and a full exhale. And inhale. Universe, great spirit, higher power, God, put us in the places you want us to be, with the people you want us to be with, doing the things you want us to do. Thank you for the joys and the challenges of our lives. Amen. Namaste to everybody here. So much love. Nikki, thank you again, and love you just so much. You can do you want to say some final words to folks?
Just thank you. And like Tommy said, do your best to stay safe. Trust everything, the process, you're being held in some way. We always say at some of the end of our meetings, remember that recovery is one of those things no one can do for you, that we all need to do our own work. And you can't do this one alone, that we need each other, right? We really need each other in community. So staying in community is so important.
With that, love to all, peace to all, blessings to all, and we'll see you again really soon. Nikki, thank you again.
You are so welcome. Take care, Tommy.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.